All right. Here we are. Streaming on YouTube. All right. Here we go. So I'll wait for people to filter in. But in that time, I will be explaining what we did last week. Anything you see in this gray and white is stuff that we decided that I'm going to keep. And anything that you see in red is not decided yet, or things that I wanted to ask about. And everything in orange is stuff that needs, that I'm okay with and that I came up with on my own, but just wanted to run by, because ultimately this is a group project. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Looking forward to working on it more. Yeah, it's last stream we decided that we wanted that we were okay with, rather, a 4-way voicing distinction, which breaks down into heavily aspirated, murmured, or voiced, which was great. That was an amazing thing that we all kind of settled on. And at the end of last stream, we ended up touching on a post-alveolar versus palatal distinction. So, I have ideas as to how that would work. But again, I definitely want to hear from whoever wants to hear about it, or wants to give their opinions on it. And I did this as an attempt to break out of a rut. I normally fall into the whole only unvoiced sibilance. Okay. Hi, Sawton. So, this is Ofsumir, or at least the beginning stages. It used to be Ofsumir is a conlang that I worked on in high school, but I ultimately got overwhelmed with because I tried to pull. Yeah, I'm fine with you putting in your input. That's fine by me, man. But yeah, ultimately I got overwhelmed by it because I tried to do a whole triconsonantal root system, and it just ended up overwhelming me because I was in high school. That was like my second year of conlanging. It's like, ooh, let's do this complex thing, when I barely had an understanding of how case affixes worked. So mind you, okay, so everything that you see here, everything except this little tab down here, and some goals that I had set up, was created on stream. So my last few streams, we ended up figuring out this whole thing, and I knew I wanted clefting, but two people in chat, Ship and yeah, what is this, Hebrew? Totally. but then Welsh ship and galactic sand kind of just broke in and did that sort of thing, which led me to all sorts of different ideas as to, I mean, this. But this was the big idea that I wanted to go for. Pro drop VSO, which is how we would get this sort of deal. Yeah, the vowel alternation. And the way it ends up working is that it's not all of the vowels that get mutated, so it's not like it's not that. It's more like that sort of deal. So second person agreement wouldn't end up being Tamat. It would end. We're just gonna. It wouldn't be Tamat. It would be Tiamat. So I also wanted to, as is obvious up there, I wanted to do a good deal of analogy because that's something I struggle with. So my thought was, okay, so if I do this triconsonant or this vowel mutation or apophony thing, what happens with these sorts of pairs where the final vowel is E? Yes, there is verb fronting. Or verb fronting. Vowel fronting. I thought I read. There is vowel fronting. Yes, there is verb fronting. Took me a second, but I'm on. I gotcha. Yes, there is verb fronting, and yes, verb fronting in the syntax. Now, this down here will give context as to how I think that would happen, or how I think I could make it happen. Let's just say I have done some reading on Caucasian languages, specifically Kabardian. I'm not sure if that is synonymous with Ubich, but I know that I read something on a language that was titled tense first. Does that just mean the tense phrase when you say tense first? Yes. So, OV underlying. Okay. So what you're saying is something like X or something like that. Is that? Yes, no? I mean, I do like that. Mm-hmm. Oh. I like that. Yeah, because Oh, hello, Galactic Sand. An S first for extra focus. Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing with putting S first. What would we do with pronouns? Because that's my whole idea for this. This is subject agreement. So what would we do with S if it was a pronoun? Would we need it? I don't think we would need it. That's the point of doing subject agreement. But auxiliary subject object verb. Auxiliary object verb subject. Yeah. Yeah, that was the point. Something. That was the point for doing that. I mean, so what we could do is, like, because oftentimes the auxiliary gets any, like, tense information or affixes, so I feel like that would be more likely. So I don't know. But we can you know what we can do? Wow, if I can find keys on the keyboard. Or not. Boom. So and definitely we can look at this sort of thing later. But I do like this. But I want to introduce y'all to how I figured we could go from SVO in the proto language to VSO. So here this comes. So I did a little bit of experimenting. So these are not phonological forms for Ofsumir at all. I just made up words. But my idea was that in early stages of the language, animate subjects would... Yeah, if I have agreement and case, yeah, I'll lose basic syntax. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. Which you'll see when you look at this beautiful thing. So I came up with the idea with Blackfoot style, sort of animacy, where an animate noun, a semantically animate noun, would only be able to be subject, and a semantically inanimate noun wouldn't. The subject of a transitive verb, rather. And then on top of that, for distinction between the subject and the object, we there would be 2 different or 3 different demonstrative types, which I read about Kabardian. I was talking about Kabardian. It's a language spoken in the Caucasus, and it is a fully ergative system, as in that its case marking it only has an ergative case, not like an ergative and an accusative, like, that are both independent of each other. And historically, it is believed that that ergative case in Kabardian evolved from a demonstrative. So, of course, I take that to its logical extreme, and, at least in the proto-language, make it necessary for any noun, any animate noun, to be, Oh. Oh, no. I just received a something. From Sutton. Okay. Verb. Ooh. Oh. Okay. I like this. Hold up. Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up on Discord. Okay. Let's look at this. So, Sutton, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not 100% versed in syntax trees and terminology. I understand. Oh, tense phrase. That's what a tense phrase is. Yes. So what are we looking? So what do you mean by voice? Is that like a? Are we talking like grammatical voice? Okay. And then speculative voice. Is that speculative voice or special voice or? I'm intrigued. So I see the verb phrase. Where the subject of the voice phrase spawns. Okay. Okay, so that's just the subject of it. Okay. This is a gripe this is just a personal gripe. I never liked the whole, like, layers, like how it's voice, spec, voice, subject. I never liked that. So what I'm looking at here is VSO, so auxiliary, subject, object, lexical, and then voice. Yeah, the voice modifier. Yeah. Oh yeah. With case and agreement, you can basically have free subject order. Yeah, especially if it's subject agreement. Well, any sort of agreement. But yeah, I'm looking at this and all right. So here's the problem with that sort of thing. I just won't see OSV. Why not? What is the reason for that? For not seeing OSV in that? Yeah, okay. Object-verb coupling. I don't know. I do... Well, that... You'd need to raise the object out of the verb phrase. Huh. That's interesting. And to do that, you... How would you do that? Is that an inverse? Would that use inverse voice? Or... Okay. Questions. As in, like... Hold up. So object out of the verb phrase. So that object would go into... How far up would it be raised? Well, let's think about it. Let's think about it. You are going to store. Are you going to the store? So what's... So, be patient with me. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm not quite sure how to... Okay, which store are you going to? Okay. So those... I'm not 100% sure that I fully understand. But, like, I know... I understand that the word you is still the subject there. I just don't I'm not quite sure I understand how it raises out of the verb phrase. What? I have no idea how often you hear what? The I'm not sure I fully understand, or I'm not sure how it raises out of the verb phrase. What are we... Oh, dude. Well, so to both. So the question is this thing that you sent me right here, is this the idea that you had for Ofsumir? Because I think I grasp this. I understand this. Yes, no? Oh, basics. Oh, that's just basic stuff. Oh. Well, I guess that tells you. VSO XSOV. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that I do like that, and that is semi what I'm going for. So yeah, I'll just plop that down here, make it final. Um, and what were you saying? The only one that I wouldn't see is OVS? Oh, I wouldn't see OSV. Okay. But yeah, so this still kind of checks out. I like that. Alright. So back to this idea that I had to facilitate this. To facilitate. Basically, when an aux is used, the subject would occur in between the object and the verb. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Wouldn't. Yes, okay. Don't mind me. I'm learning. But yes, back to the methods of which I wanted to invent this. Hey ship, we're having fun. This is fun. So, I worked on this week, and I had the idea that what's happening here, so just the same way that you burst into my stream last week, Satan burst into my stream this week, and is teaching me basic things that I had no clue of before. But I worked on this whole idea of how I would facilitate that word order switch last week that we came up with last week. And the way I figured it out is essentially by taking an idea that I learned about from a Caucasian language called Kabardian, where they take where historically they used the definite article as an ergative marker. So, for the proto-lang, I took that to its logical extreme, where semantically animate subjects take the definite article, and semantically animate objects take some sort of demonstrative. In these two examples, il maki tunu munyana. So this dog, the person sees munyana, this dog. Iliana tunu tuai maki, that person. And eventually, that Iliana or ilmaki could affix itself. And mind you, these are not phonetic forms for Ofsumir. These are just like example-ish. But that definite article affixes onto an semantically animate subject, and that demonstrative is lost unless needed. Or we could invent another demonstrative or some other thing. But the ilmak agent, the il becomes an agent affix or an ergative affix. And then the lack of anything, the lack of anything, given that yan is an animate noun, means that it's a patient. And at some point in its history, we at some point in the language's history, we take this deal, we take the verb and front it. There could be all sorts of different reasons for that. The reason... Noun incorporation. Care to explain what you mean by noun? It sounds a little bit like noun incorporation. That's... I mean... Oh, to person see. Is that what you're getting at? Oh, not being marked, being incorporated into the verb. Oh no. Ooh. I just got a terrible idea. I just got a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad idea. So. Subject agreement, right? Subject agreement, right? If I can spell. Am I totally off base here with that? Am I insane? Because I know that it exists. I know that it exists, and it usually exists because of ergative systems. As in like excuse me. As in like Chinese measure words. Or Navajo and Cherokee with their long thin object classifiers. Am I on the right track there? Yeah, not measure words. But like class markers. Yeah. Okay. So would we still be able to do that? Would we be able to do that and still... Would we be able to do that and still keep the agreement morphology intact and justify a noun case system? Mind you, the noun case... I'm not married to the idea of noun case. Like... I'm okay if we get rid of it. That, to me, that only existed because to facilitate that VSO word order. But would we be able to do noun incorporation? Yeah. But there is a case of... There is that case of Kabardian where it came from the definite article, which I am taking, which I am stealing for the proto-language. But I don't know. Would we be able to maintain this with that sort of okay, so let's work it out. So tun yan ilmak, or so just for the sake of argument. Yeah. What if it? So the definite article might double as a relative marker if it stays dependent or independent, if it doesn't become an affix. See, that's why I wanted to do something with case. That's why I wanted to do something with case. So I can have a freer word order. And Kabardian. Kabardian was the language where the definite article turned into case. It is historically believed to be that, at least in the paper I read, or the grammar I read. It credited its ergative case. And mind you, it didn't have an accusative case. Its ergative case and its accusative case were identical, which is why which is one thing that leads to that, or lends to that whole thing. Here, if you that is Control B, Control I. There we go. I got the paper from the absolutely beautiful The Pile, if you know what I'm talking about. Just, it's an absolutely massive repository of language grammars, and it's whew. But recently I went to look for it and it's been taken down. So I wonder if it's because there were some less than legal things. But way back when I first started, I was a frequenter of The Pile. But yes, Kabardian is the one that turns the definite article into case in the grammar that I read, so that's the idea that I'm taking. Because I'm a thief like that. So, tunlimak. Oh? In Kabardian, the definite endings inflect for case, but not the indefinite. I didn't realize that there was... I did not realize that there were definite and indefinite endings. Which... no, I won't go as far to say that that's similar to what we have going on here. Because it isn't. But... Huh. This is that's Kabardian? Well, dang. So what's the indefinite ending though? Is there an indefinite ending? Or is that the whole deal? Like only the definite and definite, only definite nouns. Yeah. And what I read, at least the way I understood it, is that what I understood from what I read is that ergative affix came from a definite article, and that's why the absolutive that's why the absolutive marks as well. Because generally the absolutive doesn't. Like the absolute. I'm gonna try speaking again. The absolutive is usually the unmarked case, if I'm correct. So, the ergative absolutive is closely related to the opposition definite indefinite. So, I feel like suffixes used for marking ergative and absolutive cases also have the definite function. The ergative and absolutive suffixes may alternate with zero marking when a, s, or p is indefinite. Yeah. So the idea is still there. And as for like odd sources for case affixes, and I'll have to check up with Quaint on this one, but I read somewhere that the Mandarin Chinese, that like there was a Chinese dialect. I've seen definiteness turn into gender. Chinese, one of the Chinese dialects used the verb to take as an accusative marker. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so one of the Chinese dialects used the verb to take and turned that into an accusative marking. Or an accusative something. An accusative article. It obviously historical. A historical article. But, yeah, like, that's the idea that I have here. About that definite article becoming a core case. And it being an ergative marker. But the thing is, I love that idea of noun incorporation. What issues do you think there would be with turning an article into case and having free word order? My idea is that like that speakers would just learn that suffix, that case marker, or not suffix, that case marker, it just means the thing that's doing the thing. So they could just do whatever they want with that. But what problems might there be? You might see a situation with English where the case is triggered by its placement into syntax. Oh! Oh! Yeah, and that's like modern English, like modern colloquial English, like not the book correct, the textbook correct. You and I eat food. No, yeah. Hmm. The reason why me is used is because the and doesn't put me directly in the subject position. Huh. That. Ooh. But there's something in the object position. Food. O or SVO. Food is the object. Huh. Oh, it's just the surface stuff. So it's the understanding that the first noun is always the subject. It quote unquote always the subject. Am I on the right track there? Yeah. And is lower in the syntax. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Oh. Oh. So you and me, or you and I. Ooh. Is that like a... Oh, that's cool. That's insane. Okay, so... Huh. So... But would that be a problem? Would that be a problem in this language? Considering that that the earliest form of the language used this as an agent marker. Well, no, it's all the way I set it up is it's all animate nouns, all animate subjects, all animate doers. But all animate subjects take that definite article, and all animate objects you're gonna have to forgive me, Sawton. I don't know what you mean by the angle bracket there. Oh, so 2. Yes. So definite article 2 plus animate. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Again, you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm not the quickest snail in the race. Yes, that's the whole idea that that I wanted to go for, that the definite article becomes an animate marker. And I don't think that would cause too much of a problem. I don't think that would cause too much of a problem with word order if things like this, like that proximate demonstrative coming to be associated with an object. You'll find that I do this a lot. I take things to their logical extremes. Given that there is an object, or there is a demonstrative, something that makes the object more alive and more focused on than just a rock. You know? Like, Kui is there on its own. Rock is there on its own. It doesn't take a demonstrative. But Yana, dog, does. So it could either be... So my first thought goes to, like, say the definite article has a very weak phonological form, something like just E. So if we're gonna make this look like Ofsumir, Maki, Yana E. But well, that's a pickle, isn't it? All you're seeing is definite article turns into animate marker, and animate objects are incorporated, and a new definite marker develops. And again, I want... Again, it's So we can do something else. I just kind of liked my idea. But we can do something else. I'm not... Let's look. Do we have prepositions? We have prepositions. We have prepositions. So, Yes. Relative clause, then noun, and then preposition and noun. Yes. So we kind of sat on that for a second last stream, and kind of just like we sat on word order for like 30 minutes. That's an exaggeration, but we sat on that for a while, and at a certain point we kind of just said, why can't we just do it? You know? It's like, why can't we just not care? And I will sing the praises. I will sing the praises of the Conlangery podcast until the end of days, because there came something that like justified that idea of just putting relative clauses first. Because consider what relative clauses do. Where VO is a relative clause. Oh. So VOS, where VO is a relative clause, sleeps on a rock with a pig. Or the pig that sleeps on a rock, the pig. Huh. It's very fun. I like that. Eat man duck. Well, our thoughts last week were that relative clauses would be used for topicalization. So, that being red, the roses, the violets, the bushes, my garden is on fire. You know, the classic poem, roses are red, the violets are red, the bushes are red, my garden's on fire. Ooh. Can go to copula development. Huh. So, what actually happened? The thing I described, or the thing that you described with eat duck, relative clause man? Yes. Wait. Ooh. Note that N is the topic, not the relative clause. Huh. Yeah. So it would be some... So, the roses Huh. So that's what I had before. Yeah. The horse who raced past the barn fell. Yeah. So, but wouldn't that still make sense then? What I had originally. Those being red. The roses, the violets, the bushes, my garden is on fire. Wouldn't that still make sense? But just the fact that it is first in the sentence means the fact that it's first in the sentence puts it in the spot of the topic, puts it in a topic spot. So it's like we're just gonna state, if you state anything after that without somehow modifying it, it would just be assumed to be red. Yeah. Yeah! First doesn't equal top. So we would want something to the effect of... Does... Or. Would it end up being something like that? Being the roses... being the roses, the violets, the bushes, red. That. The roses, the bushes, and the violets, which are red, are all on fire. What? And then that comes to the whole thing, like... Where would the verb sit in that? Because you'd expect it... something like that. Being the roses, the violets, and the bushes red, burning. That, given what I have for the proto-language. Juxtaposition. Being the roses, the violets, the bushes, a red thing. Burning. Huh. Yeah. Or red thing, burn. And that's how it would work in English. The red things, roses, bushes, violets are burning. Sorry, I'm just laughing at the poem. that is my absolute favorite. English can drop the realizer. And relative copula. But do we have any objections to this? Is this a problem? Like with that copula there. Because that might help us figure out, or this, knowing this. Standing as in being like a copula locative sort of deal. Or going from a locative to a copula. That sort of classic deal. Do we have any objections to this? Because this might help me figure out, or help us figure out what to do for that ergative marking that frees up word order. Excuse me. Any objections? Yes, no? All right. So, relative marker, often question words like who, what, which, and drop the copula. So, the roses, the violets, the bushes, red things burn. Yeah, if the copula is new, it wouldn't show up in relative clauses. Okay, so this is a proto sort of deal with relative clauses. Oh. Oh. So it would end up being, or would that relative marker be considered an adjective, or would the relative marker be considered the quote unquote noun? I feel like roses, violets, bushes would be considered. Would be a particle in between the clauses. Okay. That makes sense. Something Sutton said makes sense to me. Woo! We are making progress. Okay. But so we still have the question of gaining word order, or gaining freer word order. But I think for right now we should clean up demonstrative noun or noun demonstrative. I was thinking like demonstrative equals adjective, so it would be noun demonstrative. I just did that in the other one because I just did that in the worksheet because it's what came naturally. But yes, I was planning on noun demonstrative. Unless there is some sort of... Unless you're just gonna just burst in and give some sort of knowledge bomb. But I think we should touch on, or start working a little bit more on phonology, so I can like actually put forms to it. So what I came up with for the proto system, phonological whatever, is pataka, just the classic, that are in free alternation between, at least in the time of the proto language, are in free alternation between aspirated and tenuous, which would lead to this branch of the family. Say there's a family. This branch leading this branch to having aspirated consonants, aspirated voiceless stops instead of tenuous voiceless stops. Which also, having those aspirated voiceless stops would also lead to heavily aspirated stops. When that aspirated stop comes into a cluster with an H, which is gonna have some fun repercussions with that whole agreement thing that I have planned, because I planned it that the second person pronoun is ha. So a word like meat, like that would ultimately be aspirated. That t would ultimately be aspirated. Meat ha. And then meat ha. Meat ha. And then mat. Exactly. That's exactly the changes. Voice plosives stay the way they are. Voice plosives in a cluster with H become murmured. Voiceless plosives become aspirated, and voiceless plosives in cluster with H become heavily aspirated. Which is, I do not believe it is extremely stable. Which is why we had this sort of deal. What do you mean you expect a loss of voicing? As in... No, it's not stable at all. A loss of voicing in the voiced stops? Sort of like a Grimm's Law thing. Is that what you're talking about? Loss of all voicing and stops. As in, like, this just falls in on itself and turns into... Just that sort of deal? That's... Oh! I mean, I like that. I liked that. And that would still maintain a that heavily aspirated thing. I do like that. But I'm not sure I like it for this, you know? Huh. Yeah, because that's, to be 100% honest, I kind of got settled on that whole idea. Might undergo fortition. Ooh. 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 I love that. I love that. That. Oh. Oh. Yes. Oh my gosh. So. Might become something like that. Would that be co-articulated? Or would that become like quote unquote affricate? I feel like it would, like 99.9999% become an affricate in the velar. But would that become k, ta, and k? I like that. I like that because it's definitely more like solid than just heavily aspirated. Yeah, it's definitely more k, k, k versus ta and k. Okay. And I like that idea. I think I'm gonna use that. Ah. I really like this. That's so b, p, k, d, t, t, t. Or let's say uvular release, because that just seems easier to me. Uvular release. So I'll go back later and replace this with IPA. P, t, k. And do we want to bite down on that? Because I feel like that's important. Because I was listening to conlangery, and they were talking about glottal stops in English versus Arabic and how they really bite down on the glottal stop in Arabic, but we don't really do that in English. We kind of just float over it. It's not uh-oh, it's uh-oh. We kind of just glide over it. So, do we want to it's phonemic in Arabic? Yes. That's... I don't know. I don't know how distinct I want it to be. Because... I think it would be more fun to bite down on it. Like... Pearopota. Like... Just... You know? It sounds like something that would be just spit out, you know? For a lack of a better term. It would just be spit out. So yeah, we'll add a whole footnote sort of thing. Heavy articulation. Boom. And then, so, there would be a fortis lenis distinction in the voiceless stops. Yes, the Korean tense consonants. Ooh, don't even. That was one of my ideas. That was one of my ideas for this. I also like that whole heavily aspirated versus lightly aspirated. That was one of my inspirations for the heavily aspirated versus plainly aspirated. But yeah, this is cool. And last week, at the end of the stream, it was kind of like a passing thing. We ended up... higher vowels are closer to the roof of the mouth, so they will definitely affricate it. Low vowels less so. Ooh. Oh. Sotten. Oh my gosh. So we can keep that plain old heavily aspirated thing, but have it be... Sotten. Oh my gosh. This is why I need to read more. I would have never known about that. I think the most I've read about Korean is about its historical quotative marker. Or its historical... how it developed its quotative marker. So, we because labials don't use the tongue, they could have an idiolect variation even on E. Hello, gal. Welcome to the Sotten Tells Me Everything About Everything stream. This is great. We modified some things. So oh my gosh, this is the best. Oh, I love it. Okay, so last week, nearing the end of the stream, we touched on post-alveolar versus a palatal distinction. This is the inspiration for that was one of the members of chat brought up Mandarin Chinese. And at that point in time, the stream was like almost over, and I had no time to be like, wait, isn't that a retroflex versus alveolar palatal? Oh no. Oh, Sotten. Oh no. I just got a message from Sotten. Oh, you sent me a thing. Oh, thank you for the questions thing. So Sotten, I see letters. I see a bunch of letters. Clause? Does C stand for clause? I'm assuming C stands for clause. Oh, trust me, I was in less servers. And then I kind of just yeeted. That I'm assuming CP stands for clause phrase? Or it has something to do with the relative clause? Yes, no? Well, we can talk about this later, Sotten. I'm very intrigued. Oh. Prep, rel marker, relative clause, noun, adjective. Preposition, relative marker, relative clause, noun. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Preposition, relative marker, relative clause, noun, adjective, demonstrative. Sotten, you mad scientist. Oh. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that so much. Oh. It's beautiful. Okay, I need to write that down quick. And then we're going right back to phonology. But I have to write this down quick. Prep. Relative marker. Relative clause. Noun. Adjective. Dem. Or adjective. Yeah, noun, adjective, dem. Beautiful. Freaking beautiful. Okay. as I was saying, last week we touched on post-alveolar versus palatal distinction, which I have a feeling on. I have an idea on how to do it, on how we would do it, but I'm intrigued. I don't know. The way I figured we would do it is that at an early stage in the language, there would be palatalization of velar consonants, which led to palatal consonants. Palatal affricates or palatal stops. And there would be, later in the language, there would be palatalization of alveolar stops, which would become post-alveolar affricates. The thing is, if we want these to be stops, just like the palatals became, like, if we want the alveolars to turn into stops, which I don't think would be very likely, specifically because it would be alveolar to post-alveolar. Like, they're not very different. They're not very different. Ta versus ta. Ta, 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 ta. So I feel like if we were to develop them into stops and not have them just become affricates, it would either merge back with alveolar stops, or they would become retroflex. But I'm not a big fan of that idea. So I feel like a better distinction would be a palatalized stop and a palatalized affricate. So ka versus cha and da versus ja. I'm not sure. I'm fine with it if we ultimately decide that that's okay. But I don't know. Does anybody have any input? Any idea? If not, we can just bam, and then say, yes, this is happening. Yes, no, maybe so. I'll take that as we're okay. All right. So do we want that to apply to fricatives as well? Also, this is a me thing. I don't know why I put that in red. This is a me thing. I usually do only unvoiced fricatives. That is a trap I fall into very often. So s and z. So I want to do this. I want to include both voiced and unvoiced fricatives, even if we pretty much retain the system from the proto-language. Obviously, Glottal H would be lost to make way for these. But Proto-H would be lost. But even if it is still the same system, and maybe insert that. And yes, I am fairly versed in Sampa. Only because it's quick. So that's just me. I pretty much want a voiced versus unvoiced fricatives. Yeah. Alright, have a good one, Satan. Hopefully we get some more just distressing influence. So, I was thinking sibilants are the ones that gain the voicing distinction, and non-sibilants don't. I'm fine with that. I think we already did enough craziness. I think we did more than enough craziness in our I think we did more than enough craziness in our stops and affricates. So what I propose is this. And then labial, alveolar. I believe that's palatal, nasal. This is what I propose. Nothing insane. Fairly plain. Insane in the membrane. I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't... So we can... I think the biggest change that happens is the development of post-alveolar and palatal series. Is the development of a post-alveolar and palatal series, and the development of heavily aspirated consonants. Oh my gosh! Oh, I love that so much. Okay. So now I want to work on vowels for a second. So, Gal, I don't know if you were around when I went over the goals for this language. We're working on that. We're gonna figure that out. So one of my biggest goals for the language is apophony, by some sort of agreement governed by apophony. Kind of like the Semitic systems. So, a word like team would either be timit, timat, or timut. By logic of this table, you know? So, my question is, do we do weird stuff with the vowels? Because we can. We really can. I think my favorite quote on just doing weird things with vowels is, sometimes vowels just change. Oh, define weird stuff? Well, we could destroy this. Like, say, instead of like T-mot, we would end up, say, with a word like team. So, teammeet, teamot, and teamuk, which might all become, well, teameet, but it might become teamet, or teamite, might. And then that would become Timuk. We could do that sort of thing. Going back to that whole idea of heavily aspirated consonants. So teapot. Who says? We could do syllabic fricatives, you know? Teapot. T. Teapit. And T. We could do syllabic fricatives or voiceless vowels. And then that obviously leaves like the question of what do we do with A and O. But just working on like that clean agreement system. I guess I should clear this up. I feel like the heavily aspirated series, this thing up here, this monstrosity up here, would have all sorts of different effects on vowels. Because of what it is, you know? It's a voicing distinction. Which ends up being allophonically turned into like so instead of pa, it would become pa. So we could do a pa for that could become so we can do it so that it's only between like voiceless obstruents. Because like I feel like that, hold up, let me do that. I feel like those heavily aspirated consonants would do something to the vowels around it, you know? So we could do that. We could do palatalization around, or we could do diphthongs around palatal consonants. We could do all sorts of stuff to just destroy this system. And I say destroy as in make it less obvious where everything came from. And obviously there's the thought of like let's look at the proto-language, you know? Like, we could get stuff from the proto-language. Like, say vowels back because of... Or vowels lengthen. We could do long vowels. We could do long vowels. I have, like, hesitant sort of long vowels in, I have tentative long vowels in the proto-language. But I don't know if we want to retain those. There's just all sorts of stuff we can do. We could have... Again, I am very focused on these heavily aspirated consonants. Those could become uvularized vowels. So instead of pri, it would become pri. Or we could have back unrounded vowels. So let's do this. Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. I just realized the absolute commotion that would cause in the agreement system. So, voiceless vowels, number 1. Number 2. Fricatives are 3. Are 3. I like all of them. I love all of them. I also absolutely adore number 2. I adore number 2. So I might maybe implement that in, like, unstressed syllables. Yeah, I might implement that in unstressed syllables. But the question is, what do we want the big thing to be? And I say this, I bring this up because this is gonna happen. I am going to engineer this so that it happens a bunch. I can really mess with this. I love it. I love this so much. And if I'm going to try and speak English, if we do that backing thing, so like tri, whoops, tri, tra, trou, to trou, tra, so tra to tra, trou. Oh. Oh, that is fantastic. And we could do... Oh my gosh. So, ki, or ki, ka, tu, to ki, ka, or e, ke, and ki. I like that. I like that a lot. It's beautiful. So, yeah. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that vowel backing thing. I'm gonna... Ooh, whoo, whoo. So... This is beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is the single best thing I have created. Or the single best thing that has been created by me. And with help, of course. Of course. I wouldn't be able to come up with this. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, okay. Okay, okay, okay. So I think I'm going to settle on heavily aspirated consonants becoming uvular releases. Uvular releases back consonants. Releases back vowels in back. What's the word? What is the word? Oh, vowel. Tact. And then palatals. Front vowels in contact. All right. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Ka, ka, pra, tra, ka, pa, ta, 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 ka, ba, da, ja, ga, ga, fa, sa, ha, fa, sa, sha, ha, za, ja, la, la, ma, na, nya, na. I like this. I like this. This is great. And then So plus stop plus uvular or aspirated one okay, so sonorant becomes fricative whenever between a heavily aspirated stop and a voiceless consonant. Oh, this is fantastic. And if that oh my gosh. Oh, that's beautiful. That would be great to do voiceless, like, so becoming like a bilabial fricative. I would love that. But I think I'm gonna just make it only vowels. Or only high vowels. No. So plus vowel minus mid. Those just become plus vowel plus vowel plus mid minus voice. So those become voiceless. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh. All right. I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you for watching. Thank you, anybody on YouTube who's watching later. This was great. This was great. We made some really good progress. Oh, have a good one, y'all.